Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. It seems that you've caught me playing with Diceself. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, or whatever time zone it is wherever you are on the world, and welcome to episode 3 of season 1 of the Playing With Diceself podcast, where we're going to play some Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition by myself, this sad British Goth boy playing Vampire the Masquerade using his own homebrew, the Autarkis Storyteller. And I think it's been pretty interesting so far. Our vampire Nosferatu Doris has successfully inducted a Nosferatu by the name of Bryan into the Cleopatrans of Yima Nosferatu, who are not too fond of their condition, Doris themselves believing that their vampiric manifestations, for lack of a better phrase, are somewhat of a sin that we determined last time is the fact that she belted some kid in her youth. What else happened? We found out that in Elysium, Prince Jonathan of Clan Melkavian has put a blood hunt on every single Anarch vampire. So we have 2 different plots going on. Oh, no, we have 3 plots going on. We found out that the Seneschal and Bryan used to be a couple, and, yeah, the Seneschal's, he might be an issue. He might be an issue. So, we move on to the new session, and before we start, there's a bit of housekeeping to be doing. I got that phrase correct this time. I don't come into these sessions thinking too much about what could happen, because if I put much thought into it and then start writing it, and I'm basically making up stuff as I'm going along. But as I was setting up to record this, I was trying to think of where we could set off, because we ended the previous session with Bryan being inducted into the Cleopatrans of Yima, the cult of Yima. And I think it would make sense to have a few days go by, to have Bryan feel comfortable with his fellow Nosferatu, because remember, the Cleopatrans of Yima in this city, which we have yet to determine properly, their base of operations, for lack of a better phrase, their place of worship, is in a homeless shelter, or community centre of some sort, and they're taking care of the homeless at night, and I imagine there's some of them are ghouls to other Nosferatu there, particularly to that of Priscilla. There's a name that I came up with, the Nosferatu in charge, and as I said, there's a bit of housekeeping that needs to be done. Quite a bit as it happens. But first things first, as it's a new session, I can heal superficial willpower damage equaling to that to my resolve or composure. For the case of Doris, they're both free. We took 2 points of superficial willpower damage last time, so those are all gone. I awarded myself 3 points of experience. That takes me up from 4 to 7. Which then presents an interesting narrative possibility, which I'll go over in a moment. But there's also the matter of the fact of one of Doris's flaws, the bond slave flaw. Now, the whole process with this initiation of the cult, Doris, Priscilla, and Bryan had to drink from this cup. Well, I say it was a cup, it was a steel pan. They haven't been here very long, they don't actually have a lot of artifacts, so forth, to use. It's more... I decided that stainless steel, the pan here, would work better because it was clean, it wouldn't have any other taint, etc. and so forth. So basically, Doris, and this is kind of some sort of the thing I'm trying, Valordery. There we go, Valordery, that will do. And if anybody complains in the comments, you can go sit on a lemon and spin. Why lemon? I don't know. Anywho, so you would argue that there's a bit of a blood bonding going on between the two, and I would suspect that Doris is blood bonded to Priscilla in some way, which is something that I've made a note of. Maybe not, maybe so, but we've yet to work that out, and by which I mean right now, because, as I said, a few days have gone past. Doris and Bryan, I'd imagine the two have been close together. Priscilla has probably instructed Doris to make them feel at home, so to speak, like teach them in the ways, blah, 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 and all that sort of thing. And Bryan, being quite the angsty sort of fella, really punchy, he basically wants to go and beat up the Anarchs. And I imagine seeing Doris about that, maybe he would have taught them something or another, or at the very least, potence, something that Doris does not have at their possession, because why would some 80-year-old woman would need for such a thing? And to which we're going to refer to the Eternal Struggle table for the very first roll of the session to see whether it is likely that Doris would have learned a little bit of potence. So, as a reminder, the Eternal Struggle table is basically an oracle system where we're going to basically determine, as a storyteller, certain plot points, because, you know, this is all by myself, I haven't planned anything, and there's only so much I can do without some outside support. So, there is also the fact that from the previous session we were in control, so the Eternal Struggle table's gone from 1 to 2. So rather than taking 20 off our score, we're taking down 10, which is fantastic. We're going to basically ask the question, would Bryan have taught Doris a bit of potence? And I would say that it's possible. I wouldn't say that it's very likely because of Doris's way of things and the aversion to violence, although there were certain revelations in the previous episode that maybe the Doris will be a bit more accepting if push comes to shove. They have been around the block a little bit. So I would say that it is possible. So if the Jihad rating was 3, we would be looking at a score of between 40 to 49 or less. However, because we're using the Jihad rating is at 2, we're actually going to take 10 away from that, so it's actually 39 to 30, which signals that things aren't so much in our favour here. So if it's those numbers or below, then Doris would know a bit of potence. Otherwise, we'll see what happens. That landed on 74, so no, Doris was adamant about not learning potence. So in that case, having a quick glance over the character sheet, I don't think there's anything that Doris could upgrade here. Actually, having a look at things here, knowing that how I've been role-playing as Doris so far, I'm looking at intimidation, and Doris has been quite firm. You know, just this old lady just sort of like shouting and making demands of things with and without the aid of Daunt, which is a discipline power belonging to Presence, which we determined came from a coterie member, Toreador, which we have yet to define properly. So actually, I'm going to increase intimidation from 1 to 2, spending 6 of my 7 experience points. I'll just scribble that down now. There we go. I'll go to the other character sheet, because this is a character sheet in 2 parts. We have spent 6, and total experience is now down to 1. Spent experience points, 34 plus 6 is 40. The 34 comes from the character creation process, because Doris is pertaining to the ancillary generation. Right, now, because we are at a new scene, there's a couple things that we now have to do. I'm assuming that Doris... as a few days have passed, I'm going to assume that Doris has fed in that time, so we're going to take down our hunger to 0 for the time being, and we're going to make a rouse check for reanimating the blood within our deadly corpus is a wraith thing, and we are going to basically see if we get any hungrier. That's a 10, so we start at 0. Actually, come to think about it, no, it wouldn't be down to 0, because it would have to like drain a life, and Doris wouldn't do that, so it's at 1 hunger, and so we've got the 10, so it remains at the 1 hunger. Now we have done that, we have to decide what happens next. I have a couple of ideas in the back of my head. As I said, I was just setting things up and just trying to plan and plot things along. Just not plan and plot things, as a wrong phrase, like just little things that come here and there. But to see if anything happens outside of this, we're going to roll on the random scene generation table, because it's a brand new scene. And yeah, I'm going to roll my green d10. A 4, and that is work towards ambition. Well, this ambition of Doris's is basically what I've written down, less fugly. So basically there is going to be some cult shenanigans, which is kind of the thing I was thinking towards. But Doris, the difference being here that Doris is going to actively pursue this. So we're setting the scene. I say it's going to be about 8 or 9, sort of the winter period, which is when I'm recording this. Doris, actually, is Doris at the community centre or the refuge, the homeless shelter, or are they in their camper van, in their caravan, whatever? I think if they're showing Bryan around and like showing them the ropes, I would say that it is likely that the two of them are together. So we would be rolling 79 or less, but because the Jihad rating is at 2, we're actually looking for 69 or less. What is that? That is 22. So I'd say that, yes, they are in the community centre together. So it is night. I'd imagine that because of this... Yeah, I was just trying to think how open they would be, but then again, we've determined that the homeless that would come through here are aware of the Nosferatu presence, or at least they're not going to judge Doris for dressing the way that they are, which is sort of like this 90s get-up, green braided hair and a beard. So Doris, not so much asleep for vampires, it's like Big G just flicks the switch at the back of the head and the sun goes up and flicks it the other way when it comes back down again. And they awake. They're staring up at the ceiling, probably bright LED lights or something of that description. Maybe tucked away somewhere, obviously, because people would be coming through there throughout the course of the day. So the Nosferatu will probably be hiding, and maybe there's like an underground cellar or something that Doris would and co would be making themselves, making themselves home, so to speak. So they wake up, for lack of a better phrase, and they turn. Is Bryan there with them? I would say that is likely. So again, 69 or less, but actually we're looking for 59 or less. 31, yes, Bryan is with them, and they look around, and there he is. He too being of a similar generation, and I'm assuming humanity, which is 6. Actually, is Bryan's humanity the same as Doris? I'd say that it's very likely. Because bit of a fine. Actually, no, because humanity 6 would imply here that the occasional killing, but this is Bryan is going out of their way to actively wanting to kill them. So I actually say that it is lower than Doris's, and this isn't going to affect too much gameplay. It's just going to affect how I roleplay him essentially. So I say that it's highly likely that it's lower than Doris's, so 89 or less, but because of the Jihad rating, it's actually 79 or less. Oh, no. Wait, 70. Yes, 70. Is that right? Yes, it's 70 exactly. So yeah, I'd say that it's 5. Bryan isn't too monstrous, but, because he's actively wanting to partake in the blood hunt and kill them, yeah, it'd say it's 5. It wouldn't make sense to be high, and it's not going to make much sense to be much lower. So Doris awakes. Because of the humanity difference, I'd say that she turns and sees that Bryan is still slumbering. It won't be too long until he awakes, I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, she gets up. She will probably greet other Nosferatu, and because of her merit, her status, which I believe she has 3. Where is that? Respect is, yeah, 2. Okay, 2. So the other Nosferatu would recognize Doris as who they are. Of course, the ceremony that happened, the initiation that happened a few days prior, there would be some exchanges. I think Doris, being the sweetheart that they are, would probably ask how they slept and would probably get the same responses, some more confused than others, depending on the different age groups of the Nosferatu. And then, whilst they're just going about minding their business, Bryan awakes from this slumber, and it probably gives her enough time to think that they reckon that Bryan is ready to do something to work towards the cult, to do something meaningful for the cult. Like, he showed himself helping out the homeless. I don't know, they might have done some errands here or there, but I think with this random scene generator thing that we've done, that Doris wants Bryan to prove himself. So she sees that Bryan is waking and stirring, and she goes over to him.
Good morning, sleepyhead. Or I say good evening, sorry. Some habits just die hard.
Why do you do this? We go through this every single night. We don't...
I'm sorry, as I said, old habits just die hard. Anyway, how are you feeling?
I don't know. It's the same shit, different night, just hungry.
Actually, now that we think about it, how hungry is Bryan? because Doris has been sensible here. I mean, I made the assumption that Doris was more vigilant. I mean, they would have to be because they have the bagger predator type, but Bryan might not be so. He seems a bit reckless and careless in places. So, and to decide this, I'm actually going to roll a d4, because if it was like, what, fucking Hunger 5, he would be frenzied, he wouldn't be unable to sleep. So I'm going to roll a d4 to basically determine where the hunger sits. A 2, so the hunger's at 2. Not again, this doesn't really matter much. This is just basically going to respond with, I'm just, a bit hungry, but not too bad, I guess. Or could go feed later. It's not the end of the world. Why, how are you? You're looking after yourself, I guess.
Oh, of course, absolutely. If somebody got my feeding habits, you have to be more vigilant with these sorts of things. Why must you go and cause a scene all the time when you feed?
Why do you have to go and fucking raid the pantry?
It's not a pantry, it's a fridge.
Yeah, but they come from the fucking hospice, man. Just,
whatever. And he sort of sits up and he stretches, again, out of habit, and he slowly raises himself up.
Just, what do you want, Doris?
Well, Bryan, I think it's time for you to start proving yourself around here. Maybe Priscilla's got some sort of useful errand for you to do, and hopefully I can follow you through and make sure that you do things properly.
Oh, and I imagine this is quite shocked. He hasn't been here for a week, and it's like, are you sure?
Yeah, sure, of course I am. Why'd I even be suggesting this to you if I didn't think you were ready to prove yourself?
Well, am I going to get promoted or something?
No, don't get ahead of yourself. Come on.
And she sort of leads the way trying to find Priscilla. Next question, is Priscilla in the community centre, for the lack of a better word, their place of worship? I mean, given their position in the cult, I would say that is certain that Priscilla is here. Or more. No, actually, I'm going to say it's more than certain, and which would count as getting 100 or less usually. And you may be questioning, well, why have you put 100 or less there? Well, because the jihad rating changes things, silly head. Because we're now actually looking for 99 or less. 95, yeah. Priscilla is in the community centre, and I don't think it will take long for Doris to find them. And,
there you are, Priscilla. We've been looking all over the place for you. How are you?
I am all right. Thank you, Doris. I see you're lively and chipper as always. And Bryan, a pleasure. It's a pleasure, boss. How can I be of assistance to you, Doris?
Bryan has showed great work here, don't you think, Priscilla?
I certainly believe so. They've really made themselves at home here. Thank you, that means a lot. You see, Doris.
Well, I think that Bryan could start doing a bit more around here. Is there anything that you would like him to do? Any missions that need to be doing? To improve the nature of our order, to further our cause, as it were.
Is there anything that Priscilla could send them to do? And also, the thing is do you think Priscilla would give such jobs to Bryan? I mean, I'd say that it is very likely that there is something that could be done. So, 79 or less, but it's actually 69 or less. 57. So, yeah, basically. But then again, is Priscilla going to give that to Bryan? I mean, I guess really what we should be doing is determining the nature of this errand, and we're going to use the scene type activity and focus tables, which again involves rolling 2 sets of D100, or in my case, the bow. What is that? That is 30. And 30 is, oh God, destroy. This sounds already right up Bryan's alley. 56. Destroy 56. Agony. Destroy agony. Oh, destroy agony. What on earth could that mean? I'm thinking another Cleopatra, but that doesn't seem weird. Why would they want to destroy a Cleopatra? Destroy Cleopatra. I know what this is. I'm actually thinking of a Toreador. As stereotypical as it is, I believe that a Toreador of some description has caused great distraught to a member of the cult. That, and as I said, stereotypical as it may be, has done something to a Nosferatu, particularly cruel, caused them agony. And it's basically our job to go and bring them about final destruction. But what is it that they did? Can we try and define this a bit more? To which I'm going to make a set more rolls on this scene type activity and focus tables. 100. Change 48. Change 48. Failure. Failure. Change failure. I mean, I all I'm seeing is that. Oh, that's brilliant. Just this Toreador is part of the Nephilim. This Nosferatu, we're going to go. This is a Cleopatra Nosferatu. This Nosferatu have heard the tales that allegedly the blood of those of the Nephilim bloodline of Toreadors can make them appear more beautiful. And this particular Toreador, whoever they are, led them in, brought them in, and tortured them. And now Priscilla, vaguely aware of this, I think, with this in mind, that this Nephilim cult that have made themselves home in this city, no matter how big or small they are, this Toreador Nosferatu scenario, yeah, I think that's going to happen. With this in mind, actually, so my brain is just going off in places, but I'm trying not to plan too much. I think, we don't know how dangerous this is, because I said I'm just spitballing these ideas on the fly. So I'm actually going to say it's 50-50, because this might be a bit too much for them to handle. They could be bigger, could be more dangerous. This individual could be a lot stronger. For all we know, it could be the fucking Primogen. You know, it could be a lot of things. So I'd say it's 50-50 that Priscilla would be willing to give this to Bryan. Because we're not looking for 59 to below, it's actually 49 and below, and we get 16. So, yeah. So this is what happens. When Doris asks, is there anything that we can do to prove himself?
There is plenty that he could do to prove himself here, but I have to warn you. It is not pretty. One of our own has been injured by the rivals.
Rivals? What sort of rivals?
What? You mean like Nosferatu cult? No. You should know by now that the Nosferatu are family, and we usually, quite frequently, take in our own to care for them, but there is one that do not take such pride in familial matters. There are some who'd much rather mock us for what we are, or how we look.
And I imagine the two of them in unison just, like, growl, Toreador.
Yes, correct. But this is far more relevant to our cause than just some arrogant diva. It appears that our rivals, the Nephilim, have made themselves home in this city, lured one of our own in, and hurt him.
I say hurt him. They hurt them? Or do they kill them? Again? 50-50, because it was destroy. Actually, with that in mind, I'd say it's likely. So rather than 69 or less, it's 59 or less. What is that? 82. No. Just really fucking beatly hurt up.
Oh my goodness! Who was it? Who did this?
Well,
we need to come up with some names. Now, the Autarkis Storyteller does not have names here. Because there are so many different generators you can pull from online, and honestly, there are different cultures and themes from the world that I'm not going to pump through it with various different names and things. However, it does give me the opportunity to use a different book. As this is a solo role-playing theme, we're going to be using a lot of different books. And this is a new book that I got only 2 days ago from RPG. I'll leave a link in the description below. The Great Book of Random Tables. If you've seen many a solo role-playing channel, you might have heard, like, I know Trevor DeVal of Me, Myself and Die does this. He pulls results from different random books of random tables that there's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. This book has all 4 of them, plus 2 others, and it's a hardback. So there's 3 lots of female names and male names, and I'm just going to decide that whether they're male or female, or at the very least female, so femme or masc presenting, I should say, so we don't discriminate. I could use the Autarkis Storyteller for that, but if I want to fine-tune things a little bit, we'll fine-tune them a little bit more. So evens is female, odds is male. It is male, so we're going to go to the first of those tables, so a page 133. Okay, and they're 3 different tables. Yes, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to roll a d4 for that to choose which one. Obviously, re-roll as a 4. 3. So we're going to roll on table 3. And roll a d100. 1. Langley. And I've decided that Langley is the Nosferatu. I'm just going to roll odds and evens again to see if the attacker, the Toreador, was female or male. Again, odds being male, females being even. Even, it's a female or femme presenting. Again, there are 3 sets of tables. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to roll d4 just to choose which table. Re-roll as a 4. 2, table 2. And now I'm going to roll a d100 to decide the name. 79. I'm going to re-roll that simply because it's a name that begins with L and it might cause some confusion. 83. 83 is Corliss. I don't know how that's pronounced. Corlss. I'm going to go for Corliss. Right, but regards to the role-playing,
the Toreador is by the name of Corliss, and our member who was assaulted was dear old Langley.
No! Not Langley! Are they alright? Are they?
They are fine. They are slowly recuperating elsewhere. We don't need our esteemed guests to know what is going on. But they're far away from here, healing. If you, Bryan, and these eyes sort of dart towards Bryan, if you feel willing to carry out this task, you'll be awarded handsomely. Yeah, sure. I mean, I hate Toreador as much as the other Nosferatu do, but... sorry, Nephilim, what are they? The Nephilim are an arrogant bloodline of Toreador, who believe they are the descendants of an angel.
And I can imagine Doris being quite frustrated at this, would just curse, oh, spit.
They believe they are the descendants of an archangel, and they go around gloating this fact, and they disdain our order and our bloodline with great animosity. So you may follow up with this task, but it will be dangerous, and Doris will accompany you. Yeah, of course, I kind of expected that.
And I imagine Bryan would be a tad disappointed with this loudmouth by their side.
You got anything to go with? Do you know where they're kept, or like how many we're dealing with here? Or
got a couple of questions here, haven't we? Just close that book. Yeah. So does Priscilla know where they're kept, where they're holding up? I say that it is unlikely, because I feel with this way that Priscilla is speaking about them, that Priscilla would have done something about this already. So unlikely. It's 39 or less, but it's actually 29 or less. 56, so no.
Well, do you know how many there are?
Do they know how many there are? I'd say that's like next to no chance. So it's like, we can't go any lower than 1 to 9, so I'll roll it anyway. 48, no. It's like 84, but regardless, it doesn't really matter.
I'm afraid not. You're basically going to have to be doing a bit of investigation work. But Doris here, you know, will be able to help you.
Great. He probably says that a bit too harshly, but
I assure you, Doris knows what they're doing. They're vigilant to our cause, you know. I know, it's just... Sure, no worries. Doris, you got any associates that might be able to help you?
Well, there is my coterie mate, Toreador.
She sort of skulks away, expecting to be like fucking belted from Priscilla or something, but the daggers are cold and sinister, which is more than enough.
I've known them for many, many years, and whilst I don't think they have anything directly to do with them, but, you know, they may know someone or someone.
Well, it's a fucking start. Indeed it is. Well, you have your objective, and I want them dead. I want them to pay for their crimes. You don't come back until they're finished. You understand, Bryan? You got it, boss. I'm going to take you all right, Doris.
I suppose we will.
Not quite liking the violin and the onslaught, but I guess we're going to move on to a new scene. As they leave the homeless centre, there might be the odd face that were like, ugh, like general fear in the Nosferatu sort of thing. But we move on to a new scene. Now, things are currently going towards in Doris's favour, I think. Doris is basically through very minimal means is able to work towards the ambition a bit more. Like, Doris has got the result that they want, but through different means. I'm going to leave the Jihad rating at 2, that it hasn't really swayed either way. But we move on to a new scene, so we must roll on the random scene generator table to see if anything's going to interrupt this journey from point A to point B. 10, and that is ambiguous. Ooh, ambiguous. Again, I'm viewing this as, from what I was just saying, just more... This doesn't really change the scene anything, it's just more... Doris probably feels a bit colder, a bit more sinister, like... They're not... Doris isn't used to this, and the stuff from a few days ago with the fighting and whatnot, it just doesn't sit right with them. Like, Bryan is probably like rearing to go, wanting to go and, you know, crack some skulls open sort of thing, and it's... So this isn't more like a scene change or anything, this is more... ambiguous. Adding and pulling on Doris's conflicting emotions or whatever. But anyway, the scene doesn't change, there aren't any unpleasant interruptions, so we make our way to this Toreador's haven. And at long last we can actually decide who the fuck this Toreador is. Again, we're going to decide whether they're female or male or femme and masc presenting. Evens is going to be female, Odd is going to be male. Evens, we have a female. We're going to use the same... tables as before from the random book of tables. Rolling 1d4. 4 we'll re-roll from choosing the female tables 1 to 3 because there's 3 different tables in the book. That's 2, so table 2 again, and now I'm going to roll a d100. And that has just sent my d4 flying across the room. What was that? 69. Nice. Rochelle, I believe that says. Just write that down quickly next to my notes here. Rochelle. And now I'm actually going to use a different book to basically decide where is their haven. Now I could use the Autarkis Storyteller for the haven generator there, but they're going to spice things up a little bit because we can do that, and this is my channel and I get to do what I please. And we're going to be basically using Table Fables Modern, a collection of tables for the Weary Game Master by Madeline Hale. I put a link to that in the description below. We're going to roll a d6. Actually, I've just realised that sent my fucking... there it is. The d6 is there. And we're going to roll a d6 to determine what sort of building type it is. Residential, library... residential, commercial, military, municipal, or religious. That's a 1, so it's residential, so nothing too excitedly. And I'm going to roll another d6 at a time and its size, essentially. A 4, so it's an apartment. So nothing too big, nothing too fancy. Or is it? Now I'm actually going to refer to the Autarkis Storyteller, and I'm going to roll a d10 to basically describe its, like, decor, its size, and whether this Toreador is particularly luxurious or not. That is a 2. That's mobile, we'll try that again. That's another 2, so we're trying that again. 3, barren. It's an interesting choice for a Toreador, I have to admit, but we don't know what the reason is for that, if at all. But to decide the muse, which might help us answer that a little bit, we refer to page 33 of the Autarkis Storyteller, where we can decide Toreador muses. Because each Toreador, as you don't know, if you don't know, or may know, a Toreador stereotypically is... It's not so much mentioned in V5 so much, but this Toreador have a vice, something that they obsess over, and it's key that we use obsess rather than love and adore, because that's just not true. So we're going to roll a d20 to decide what their particular muse is. That is a 16 violent death. The Baron Haven makes sense now. They're a killer. And Doris is... Okay, this is just bizarre. Doris doesn't like violence, but yet associates himself with a particularly violent Toreador. Okay, so I'm imagining this now that this is playing out, that Doris is driving to this apartment, this barren apartment, and Bryan probably at some point go, so, what can you tell me about, Rochelle? You know, they fit?
What? I mean, athletically speaking, yes.
No, that's not what can you tell me about them?
I think you would, get on well with them.
Just bobbling along in her automobile.
They're the sort of the violent sort.
All right. And yet you don't like me in my boxing.
They have their uses, shall we say. I mean, we were put together by the prince, and, you know what they say, opposites attract.
Oh boy, you bring me with absolutely no sodding up, and you think they can find them? Well,
if a Toreador commits murder, another Toreador commits murders.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So they arrive and imagine what's a very modest apartment block. They arrive, you know, they take the stairs, probably the lift. I'd say in order to do what they do, it would have to be quite expensive. They have... Rochelle has quite a bit of money on their side, you know, to basically do this and not get caught, essentially, by the authorities. But maybe they do. But, you know, whatever. That's a different story for a different time. So they go up. Would Doris had said that they were coming over. Would Doris even have a phone? I don't think they would, to be honest. It's a bit above and beyond them, and with the whole fucking state of the Camarilla fiends and the SI fiends, I don't think Doris would have a phone. So I would say that is highly unlikely. So we're actually looking for 9 or less rather than 19 or less. Okay, that's 19, so yeah, they don't have a phone. So yeah, Doris would be unable to get a message across. So if I was this apartment block, they arrive totally unannounced, and Doris is probably very polite and knocks on the door. Is the Toreador at home? I'd say that it is possible, because again, we don't know that. So rather than 49 or less, we are looking for 39 or less. And if it's less than that, I will say the Toreador is not at home. 95. So yeah, they're at home. And they wait a little bit. There's no response. Doris probably goes to knock again. And the door opens, and I'm imagining very elegant, short, shoulder-length hair, black, very attractive, as any Toreador might, stereotypically speaking. Because I think the juxtaposition between really hot, sweet-looking young woman, but is actually a cold-blooded killer, borderline the sort of fucking Sabat anti-tribute thing. Oh, Doris. What a pleasant surprise. And oh, you've brought company.
Yes, can we come in?
Yes, of course. Please, do enter. And because I've overlooked the Mask of the Thousand Faces here, I'm assuming that this Toreador's got the whole block under their control. So they arrive. Again, it's very barren. Are they in the middle of something? They being Rochelle. How bad is it? Just because it's barren doesn't necessarily mean that it is clean. I'd actually come to think about it. I don't think they would be doing this for as long as they have whatever killing that they've been doing. I don't think that they would be doing this in the plate. You don't shit where you eat, is basically what I'm saying. So I'm saying it's highly unlikely that that they do their killing here. So 19 or less means that. Sorry, 9 or less, because of the jihad rating, says that that they do their work here. 20. So yeah, they don't do their things here. So yeah, this is banned. So basically what I'm assuming, this is just, this Toreador has like very low on the humanity side of things. Basically, they don't have much of a luxury for anything anymore. There's no need to pad it out besides the essentials, which I'm assuming for any vampire would just be a fridge. Or maybe a ghoul, which would they have a ghoul to feed from? I'd say it's highly unlikely because I'm just envisioning this sort of weird sense that they probably feed from the people they torture. So I don't think they would have a ghoul that could potentially just run their mouth on anybody. They wouldn't throw an individual or to ghoul someone for them to run their mouth off. So again, that's highly unlikely. So 19 or less. Actually, if it's highly unlikely, it's 9 or less. 5. Yeah. They don't have any ghouls here, so they're probably like they wouldn't be able to drink blood bag here. So ignore the fridge bit. So it's literally just a mattress. And Bryan's probably a bit puzzled by this, and I'm curious how much of this he'd be able to put together, which I'm not going to do a roll for just yet. So, got a very minimalistic approach then. Yes, I suppose you could say that. Doris, what is it?
Well, I believe that I'd be calling upon you because I require your services.
Oh, is that so? So rare is it for you to call upon me to perform my artwork? Your artwork, eh? Oh yes, most avant-garde, I have to say. Whether you'd appreciate it or not is an entirely different matter. It goes back to Doris. What is it, sweetheart?
Well, some friends of mine, shall we say, have been hurt by friends of yours.
Doris, sweetheart, you know I don't have any friends.
I didn't mean friends, I meant...
You can speak freely here. There isn't anybody listening. I assure you there is no Nosferatu here besides you two. Or anyone else hiding for that matter.
Okay. Members of the Cleopatrans, a member, I should say, have been attacked by a member of your own.
Oh, a member of my own blood.
Yes, specifically that of the Nephilim. Does that ring any bells for you?
Does that ring any bells for Rochelle? Killing? Toreador? It's possible. I can't say that they would absolutely be uncertain of this. If they're associated with Doris, they would know of the Nephilim. They would know of the Cleopatrans and the cult, whatever and what they're doing. So I say it's possible. I think it's possible. So rather than 40 to 49, because the Jihad rating makes that 39 to 30 or less. If it's lower than that, if it's those numbers or below, I'd say that they are aware of what's transpired. 13. So Rochelle does know. Ah, yes, I do know what you're speaking about. That just happened a couple of nights ago.
Really? And you didn't think of telling me?
It has nothing to do with me. Does it have anything to do with them? Are they lying? Again, I think it's possible. So what was that? I rolled and I didn't even do the thing. So rather than 40 to 49, it's 39 or yes. They are lying. We're going to work at that power level now. I would say that it is either slightly weaker, similar, or slightly stronger because coterie member, similar generations. So rather than rolling the d6, I'm actually going to roll a d4. Re-roll if it's a 4 to see. And using the results here, 2, 3, or 4, 2 being slightly weaker, 3 being similar, and 4 being slightly stronger. We'll use those numbers to determine the power level because things may get a bit dicey. 2, so slightly weaker, so dice put a 3. Now I'm going to roll 3d10 to see, see how well they're being in the line front of things. I worded that poorly. 3 successes. I'm not going to roll that. Now Doris is going to roll wits and insight, so that's 5 dice to see if they can see through the lies. So that's 4 regular dice, 1d10. Sorry, 1 hunger die. That's 1 success. I'm going to have to take a point of superficial willpower damage. Because this is quite important. I mean, Bryan is going to roll for this as well. But I'll deal with Doris first. Okay, that makes it a lot better. We've now got a crit. 4, 5, 6 successes. So Doris, sees through this immediately. But I'm going to roll for Bryan as well, who has a similar dice pool. There we go. 1 success. So basically, they both see Bryan has got a hunch that something isn't right, but Doris,
don't you stand there and lie to me. I know far too well of your antics. I swear, if you have done anything, I will lose my temper.
Were they directly involved? Because I believe that I said that, or rather, Rochelle said that had nothing to do with me. How involved were they? I say it's likely. I say it's likely that Rochelle did this, which is unfortunate. So rather than 69 or less, it's 59 or less says that Rochelle did this. 97. So no, Michelle didn't do this, but given the fact that the line, they know who did, but they were involved somehow. We know that they were involved somehow. So Doris does this little thing saying, you better tell me what did it, or I'm really going to lose my temper. Rochelle shrugs, perhaps smile. I didn't do the killing, no, but I did.
You did what? How could you get involved with them?
Doris, sweetie, you know the line of work that I do. It is simply my job. I am waste disposal.
You know how important this all is to me. And you... I can't believe this. I cannot believe this.
Now, Doris is going through a bit of emotional distress at the moment. Composure is free. Resolve is also free. Which, Doris is like, I'm actually going to roll Composure and Resolve to see what Doris does. Because under a lot of emotional stress here, they've been betrayed by a friend. Close friend. Well, maybe not close anymore. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we fail, actually, we're looking for 3 successes. If we fail this, Doris will frenzy. And I know the hunger is quite low, but as I said, the whole emotional distress it has a huge effect on the beast here. And just poor Doris. Let's see. Yeah, that's 3 successes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 successes. But how does Bryan hold up with all of this? Now, he doesn't have this emotional connection, but I think the thing he would do here, he's been tasked here to take out the people involved. So I've imagined that Bryan is going to grab, in the moment of confusion, he's going to grab Rochelle and just like push them against the wall.
Right, listen here, you fucking little shit. I don't know what fucking emotional crap you got going on here, but you're going to tell us who's involved, otherwise I'm going to split your fucking skull open. You get me?
So, we're now going to roll 3 sets of D10 to see how well the intimidation tactic works. So, 3 for Bryan. That's 2 successes. I might have to re-roll some of that depending on how well Rochelle does. 1 success. So there's a margin of 1 here. So they are intimidated a little bit, but given Rochelle's attitude towards life or the lack of respect for it, I'd say that they're more, not so much intimidated, but more wound up. So, you will release your hands from me in this moment, or I will not be held accountable for what happens next. And with that, I think Doris is either going to do one of 2 things. Because Doris has been teetering on the edge of a little bit now with the whole violence of the Anarchs, this dealing with the cult and the elimination of thereof. And now this. And Priscilla was keen on what she doesn't want to... Does she want to hurt her friend? And does she want to let Priscilla down? To which I'm going to decide on with a roll with the Eternal Struggle table and say that it's actually 50-50 as to whether Doris lashes out. Because if she lashes out, we're going to go into combat. But if not, then I think things will begin to calm down a little bit. But that won't stop. That may not stop Bryan from doing anything. But we'll deal with Doris first, because the direction of this, I feel, is going to depend on how Doris reacts now. So, because it's 50-50, we're looking for 59 or 50, and I will say that if we get that or below, actually, it's not because of that, because the Jihad rating is 49 or 40. If it's that or below, Doris will lash out and attack. If it's higher than that, Doris will keep their cool. that's an interesting result. Which you're going to have to find out next time, as this would seem like an appropriate place to end this episode. Yes, well, this has been a very interesting session, and things aren't looking very well for Doris though, aren't they? Taking huge unexpected turns. The tragic nature of Vampire the Masquerade, the betrayal and the potential loss of humanity, the degrading memory of humanity, and everything that they stand for may or may not come crumbling down in the next session, which, as we've just determined, is very possible when you play a game of Vampire the Masquerade by yourself. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Again, these have been generally a lot slower than the more traditional grouped session, and these are also much longer, but you can get away with them being longer with more players, and I think if it was any longer than this, with everything that I'm having to do, it would get a bit confusing and drab. But we're going to find out what happens next time in episode 4 of season 1 of the Playing With Diceself podcast, as we play Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition using my own homebrew, the Autarkis Storyteller, which at the time of recording cannot be found anywhere, but it will be available on the Storyteller's Vault soon. So whenever you listen to this, check out the description of the YouTube episode thingy below, and you can also find various links to my social media pages where you can find out exactly when the homebrew will go live, and much, much more. And until next time, farewell.